Hey, Rob Daniels here from Visions and Sound, and if you haven't heard of me before, Visions and Sound is a movie, TV, video game soundtrack program that I produce each and every week on 98.5 CKWR. 1 year from today is my 25th anniversary. So I was thinking, what can I do for the next year to talk about the various soundtracks that are unusual, but still are fun and something that I would not mind at all sharing with you. So I thought every week for 52 weeks leading up to June 9th or June 2025, I'll be presenting soundtracks of maybe something off the beaten path to kind of celebrate the 25th anniversary of the show leading up to it. So during this year, I decided, again, like I said, doing various soundtracks from various films. So the first one I've chosen, week one, and that's what we've got here. Week one is actually celebrating its own 25th anniversary this year, and that is Elliot Goldenthal's Titus. Now, for the most part, I think it's a fairly well-established soundtrack, but I don't hear it talked about too much. It does have an eclectic feel to it. Elliot Goldenthal definitely... Let me talk about the film first, though. The film's weird. I will be the first to admit it, though it does have some very interesting moments in it. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. It definitely is of its era. It kind of has this music video feel to it. There are moments in it where you're like, okay, there are theater moments. There are things that would have worked better in the theater, but it's a visual treat. There are some visual treats in this. There's some really interesting shots. The architecture of Rome is particularly beautifully shot. The acting in it is quite incredible. Jessica Lange, Colm Feore, Anthony Hopkins, and as I said, Anthony Hopkins is Anthony Hopkinsing it up through the entire film. It is amazing. There are some actors in it that shouldn't be. It feels like they're more spouting dialogue than actually. When Anthony Hopkins talks about, there's a portion in the film where Anthony Hopkins the Titus's sons are being taken to be essentially executed, and there's a moment where he is lamenting what's going on here, and you feel it. Anthony Hopkins makes you feel it. But there is another character in this film that is absolutely has one of the best lines in the film, and I do not want to ruin it. Harry Lennox as Aaron the Moor is phenomenal. When I first saw the film back in whenever I saw it, I kind of passed his performance off as kind of lackluster and goofy. And you know, he would look at the camera, but the look in his eyes and the grin is on his face. He's the villain of the piece, and he villains it up beautifully in the film. I will say this: it's a cool film. Now, the score by Elliot Goldenthal is, and that's what this is about. The score by Elliot Goldenthal is absolutely incredible. It runs a weird gamut from standard scoring to like jazz and big band, and although it's not Elliot Goldenthal, there is an Italian song which is as much associated with Titus as his Goldenthal's score. It's amazing. So, of course, I can't mention the Titus score without mentioning the 300 controversy that went in all of this. The opening of the film is probably one of the best opening sequences to a film of the 90s that I've seen, but it unfortunately is overshadowed by Tyler Bates' score to 300. because it uses virtually the same cue or the same music, but at the time when 300 came out, it was uncredited. That has since been changed, of course, but there is that. Now, unfortunately, I would love to be able to play you the music, but this is going on YouTube, and one of the things I do not want to do on YouTube is upset the algorithm or upset the bots, because they'll be listening. So the music here is best enjoyed elsewhere. I'm going to test this theory over the next little while, because there are other scores, and I won't be just choosing scores that are of the 90s or of the more recent variety, because it is particularly there are some really good scores that are not from the 90s and not celebrating 25th anniversary. It just happens that Titus is the one that's celebrating the 25th anniversary. In any case, so this is what I'm trying. Something that I hope that over the next 52 weeks that you'll be able to kind of follow along with me doing this with the score itself. And there are a couple of scores out there that I'm going to be listening to, and you'll be going, I don't think I've ever heard of this one before. Or I have heard of it, but I never really gave it a chance. Titus, I feel, is one of those scores. And I'll go back to it just briefly. There are some really good scores of Victorious Titus, which I believe is the name of the opening cue. Phenomenal. It works so well. It has a great choral element to it. The finale is wonderful, moving, and just beautiful. But in the middle, there's a whole bunch of other really good pieces. And again, Swing Rave is another one. Arrows from Heaven, I believe, is what the cue is called. There are some really good cuts on here. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend it. It's one of those scores that you will not be disappointed for listening to. Oh, and I have to admit that, and sorry, I do have a story. The score itself. Okay, I had the opportunity to do an interview, or be involved with the crew for an interview with Goldenthal. The story goes that a colleague of a former co-host of mine on the show needed a crew to shoot an interview with Goldenthal. He happened to run into Goldenthal at a gas station in Stratford, Ontario, and asked if he could do an interview. And Colm was very, very accommodating. He actually, from what I understand, came back from shooting Pearl Harbor. He had a small role in Pearl Harbor to do the interview. Fantastic stuff. Goldenthal, first of all, is a very cool guy. Just meeting him in person. He got even cooler. As a rule, I generally, as a professional, I generally don't do autograph seeking. But I knew this was like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I decided to bring my copy of the score to Goldenthal, have him sign it. And once the interview was done, I approached him and said, would you be willing to sign this? And he grabbed it out of my hands, he signed it, and he says, oh, I've never heard this before outside of the movie. He takes the CD, goes off to his CD player, and puts it in, and just cranks it. So for about 20 minutes in Goldenthal house in Stratford, he played the music, my CD from Titus. It was so cool. So cool. So yeah, a little bit of a story behind the Titus soundtrack there. If you're interested, first of all, my show, Visions in Sound, is on weekly, 12 to 2 a.m. every Saturday morning, Eastern Time, on 98.5 CKWR. You can find it also on visionsinsound.ca. I'm also available on Good Pods, a downloadable app for your phone or other type devices. I also be found on many of the other podcatchers out there, including Apple Music. Yeah, spread the word. 52 weeks, 52 scores. I'm looking forward to doing this. And I hope that you will stick with me during this entire period, because there's going to be some really interesting stuff, I think. Really interesting stuff. So yeah, follow me. If you're on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. We'll see if I can get this monetized. Who knows? In any case, fantastic score, fantastic movie. A little weird if you're not prepared for it. So go into it knowing that it's a little bit out there in portions. That's all I'll say. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be back in a week to talk about week 2. And what score will I be covering then? Well, find out when you tune in. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later.